best agent hasn't got the market share. Sometimes the best agent might be different. If I joined EXP and I had to share my listings on portals and things like that, maybe that would have been the thing that would stop me doing it.
And you can set people up for success and not, but like ultimately a hardcore kind of sales environment. And some people just aren't set up for it.
If you're in sales, it's a performance business. You have to get a result.
The buck stops with you when you're the business owner.
I could speak to an agent today, ask them about what they've done for the last 7 days, and I can tell you what their success is.
You have to have a combination of humility and the hustle, but an insane amount of confidence in yourself.
Desperation and confidence. Big difference.
It's not about winning it, it's about not losing it.
Welcome to the next episode of Estate Agent Showdown with me, Matt Giggs, and I'm joined by two fabulous guests. Firstly, Adam MacKay of Muver EXP Brokerage and Colby Short of GetAgent. Now, you may know or you may not know about GetAgent. So the first place I'm going to start is with you, Colby. If you could tell our listeners, our viewers, what is GetAgent? What do you do?
Cool. So essentially, GetAgent, we're an estate agent comparison site, and we help undecided vendors find the best estate agent for them. And we founded the business about 12 years ago on the premise that kind of the best, the vendors don't know who is the best estate agent for them. And that's a premise that a lot of agents kind of may disagree with. But what we found at the time in the data was we looked at which agents were being chosen by the vendors in the area local to us. E1 in London, 2.7 square miles, 800 properties listed in the previous 6 months, and they were listed by 200 different estate agent branches. 80% of those weren't in the area, and 50% of those estate agent branches had never listed a property in E1 before. So it became very clear that the people in E1 were choosing the wrong agent to list what's essentially their largest financial asset. So we thought there was an opportunity there for vendors, but then on the flip side for agents, it must be really frustrating if you're the best estate agent in your area, yet you've only got 4% market share and you're seeing 50% of vendors choosing agents who have never listed a property in the area before. So essentially, GetAgent is a data-driven estate agent comparison site, and we provide vendors insights into the best estate agents for selling their properties, and help those agents win the level of instructions that their performance deserves.
Now, for full disclosure, we're signed up to GetAgent ourselves at Giggs, so I am aware of the product and the way in which it works. But just on that note, because I think being a part of EXP, Adam, there are a lot more independent estate agents out there in every single market. And I get the feeling that's just going to continue to increase. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think the rise of, I like to call it the personal agent.
Okay, personal agent, yeah. You can call it what you fucking like. There's more of them, all right?
We can swear on it, can we?
We can swear, we can do what we like.
And I think, the word terminology, self-employed, I think that I call it the rise of personal agent. Whether that's employed or not, I think the personal brand is a huge part of where we're seeing things go. Like sometimes, the best agent hasn't got the market share, and sometimes the best agent for you or me or you might be different, but depending on what you want in your agent, isn't it? So I think looking at the rise of new companies underneath a bigger umbrella, yes.
Because it used to be, didn't it? It used to be the company brand, right? So if a client was looking to figure out who can I go to, they would put estate agents in St. Neots, for argument's sake, and you'll get a load of company brands come up. Now, if they were to look on their socials or they were to look into the marketplace, do the Google search, ChatGPT, whichever way they go and search for agents, there are so many people out there. There's so many agents out there. And what you're saying, Colby, I'm hearing is you will give that client the best performers in their market and direct people towards those agents.
And I suppose,
Colby,
sorry to interject, like in Australia, in America, Canada, the individual agent they're on the leaderboard, aren't they? They have a open access. So they have like an MLS. So I could see what Matt Giggs has done, how many houses he sold in his whole career, what he did last year, what fees he earned. So that helps them show social proof to their target client base. So I suppose you're doing it for brands at the moment, but do you see... Sorry to ask a question, Matt.
No, go for it.
Do you see that change over time, but catching up with the US?
Well, I guess there's a few things there. So first of all, you mentioned that people now see tons of options, and they definitely see more options because EXP has grown a lot, and kind of the agency UK is growing and stuff. But I still think it feels more, the growth is bigger to us in the industry than it is to the average punter on the street.
Definitely.
They're not seeing that all of a sudden their options when they go on Google have multiplied massively. I think that's kind of, we're in the echo chamber a little bit, to be honest. GetAgent shows the best agents regardless of whether they're large corporates or locals, and indeed with EXP, even though we don't work with EXP, if EXP are selling the most properties in the area, or not, it's not just about the volume, but if they're selling at the highest percentage of asking price or selling quickest, that would still show up on GetAgent's recommendations. But you're right, Adam, apart from where some parts of EXP are split down into individual agents. So I think you've got your own agency powered by EXP. As far as GetAgent's concerned, we capture what that business is doing. There's kind of Footprint, which is similar. There's Benjamin Stevens, which is similar. So we'll show them individually. In answer to your question, kind of where someone has their existing track record that they take into their self-employed journey, there is obviously a question about, is that person's prior success or failure because of them or the business they were a part of, right? A lot of people will leave a business because they don't think the business is doing very well, and they might think that they could do better by themselves. So just in the same way that person shouldn't carry some of the bad performance of the business they're associated with, they shouldn't necessarily take the good performance as well. And I'm sure, Matt, you've been doing this for a long time. You've probably lost people from your business who thought, I can do this better, and actually it's a different thing. But yeah, maybe you're right. Like if this continues, then of course I think people should be able to take some of that credibility from one brand to the next, for sure. Exactly how that happens, exactly what you can allocate to the person versus the brand, difficult to split out. A lot
needs to change till that happens, doesn't it? Because at the moment we've got less than 10%, less than 5%, I believe, are self-employed or personal agents. So if that goes to 95% at some point, those you'll pass success no matter what brokerage you're under. That's how it works in America, isn't it?
Do you think that will happen? Do you think that's the route?
That's a big switch, isn't it? But there's going to be.
But do you think 50%?
I personally, I think I asked a question to Matt on another podcast, and I see a future where it could go to 50%. And you're not creating new jobs; you're just moving people from getting paid in this way to another way, and having a little bit more freedom. And like Matt and I worked for someone else and then went on our own. It's just the same thing, isn't it? But doing it in a slightly different way without the risk and burden.
Tell us about your journey then, Adam, because we've heard a lot about Colby and what GetAgent are doing to solve problems in the industry from a lead generation perspective. So for agents to be able to be seen better in the consumer's eyes. Yours is more for agents, right? So your model now is about helping agents to build their own business within your brokerage. Is that right?
I touched on the personal agent. I was a traditional high street. Went out on my own in 2010, 14 years in, came across EXP. I've been looking for something for many years, searching, didn't feel right.
Why were you looking though? What was making you look? Because there'll be other people out there that might be able to resonate.
I think I was searching for something because I was never had aspirations of having 100 offices or 10 offices or even 3 offices. Do you know what I mean? I didn't want that financial risk. I didn't want to take
headache.
Yeah, headache, more HR problems, all sorts of stuff. Wasn't my bag. I loved helping people. My early career, I loved helping the sellers. Over a period of time, I got a new love of helping younger generations come through and buy their first house. Go from X to X, and then I could see the world change. I dived into learning, the self-employed model before I found EXP. Learning off, Australians, Americans, and following people.
Because you've done a bit yourself, didn't you?
Yeah, I started dabbling in it.
So you were an employed model, and I don't know, 5-6 years ago, I'm guessing. Yeah. You went, I'm going to add 1 or 2 people into.
Yeah, and I think Perry Power probably was a big part of that. I connected with Perry Power and spent some time with him.
What was that like, though? What was that journey like? So
I was small enough to care, but not big enough to cope.
Right. Tell us a bit more about that. What's the challenge and the upsides?
The back office, the compliance, checking that someone's, Matt Giggs is not turning the fee from 10 grand to 2 grand because he's doing a rinky dinky and not like you would do that, but
taking a cash bung on the side.
All those sort of things could happen. I could see that risk escalating has got bigger. So
is it kind of like the policing of
it and the compliance and making sure you're, because every obviously independent contractor, every personal agent has to be compliant, under, like they are their own independent entity. So me having to employ someone to check that. So I kind of could see there'd be a growth problem. You're going to have to get to a certain stage till I can employ a full-time compliance person. Whereas plugging into a brokerage like EXP, and I did look at others at the time, I felt like that takes a lot of that stress away. So, and then I can focus on the bits I enjoy. Which are helping people, talking about marketing, helping them create leads. Agents, I feel, whether they're employed or not, if they're on their own, they want some level of support, some need loads, or they want leads. And
what percentage, though? What would you say in terms of, and I don't know whether you can answer this as well, Colby, just from talking and listening and being around the industry, there's a obviously LinkedIn is a parade ground for the success stories, right? And you can see it. It's very hard to avoid it. And I think at times it can feel a little bit intrusive for people that don't work within the EXP model. I'm a great fan of Adam Day. I think what he's done and achieved is absolutely incredible. I don't think many other people I know would have done what he's done. And I think a lot of the agents that I know in the model have absolutely taken off. Is that generally the ones that would have done it without the model, if you don't mind me saying? So let's say, what are the key attributes of the people that have made a success of it? Would they have made a success of it on their own? In the
probably, but I think it's a faster route.
It's the speed of getting to that trajectory, if you like, to get there. And the flip side, when you're in one of the hardest things when I worked at Countrywide is you had some really good performers who really did a great job, and then you had 80% that weren't so good. Should we put it that way? And that their experience that they gave customers was not really good for the brand. And my worry, looking from the outside looking in, with the constant new agents joining the brand, is they share the same responsibility of maintaining and holding brand. How does EXP control that, police it, like you said, not just from a compliance perspective, but just from a values perspective?
I think Adam's biggest win and what he did when he brought the platform, they call it, into the UK, was making sure you had experience. You weren't just taking newbies.
Was it 2 years?
Only 2 years, yeah, still not loads. But that gave a certain level of competence out there. And 50% of self-employed agents don't make it work.
What is it that stops those agents from making it work?
I think
in your observations,
my observation is maybe they weren't ready. Maybe they didn't plan enough. When I launched my business and you launched your business, you do a lot of planning before that, and you get the finance in place to make sure you've got enough money to get through the first 7, 8, 9 months, maybe longer. Some probably go a little bit too early. So I'm a true believer of giving people the right advice. And I've spoken to single people agents who are looking to go, and they're not ready. They're not financially ready, and they need some more experience. And I'd rather not, bring an agent to that model and see them. I'd rather do it at the right time. Timing is everything, I think, because I was 30 when I launched my own business. I was ready. I'd done 12 years of
other stuff for other people,
but I think I wouldn't have been ready at 23.
Yeah,
like sometimes I do wonder that some of like the kind of recruitment stuff on LinkedIn for EXP or other self-employed models is generally talking about the positive. So like I do think that a little bit. But when you said, why do 50% kind of not make it, as if that's something which is exclusive to self-employed agency?
It's not.
50% of people that start normal estate agencies.
Yeah, for sure.
People business in general don't.
Yeah, exactly. We're a tech company. Like the failure rate for tech companies in the early years is huge. So like it is just a thing that I guess people that start their own business, it's a risky thing. That's why not everyone does it, and it won't always work out.
But it's like I don't know, because I suppose when getting old, you kind of and working in so many different projects, which has been really good. You really do see the traits quite. I mean, I could speak to an agent today, ask them about what they've done for the last 7 days, and I can tell you what their success is, right? Most don't do the things that they need to do. They do the things that they want to do on a daily basis, which are normally to do with painting walls or going on social media and everything they can to avoid going into the market and solving problems.
I think your answer to your question, your how does he police it? How do he police it?
Yeah, sorry, well done for bringing me back there. I'm fucking useless at forgetting where I've got to.
I think it's an important point because your observation is really interesting there and it was probably the thing that's holding me back the most from going with the platform.
Well, like it's reputational, isn't it?
Yeah, you've got your company, I've got my company, and it's you can police that, can't you? But you're suddenly associating with a load of other people. And I had that. I was part of the guild for 10 years, and sometimes I would be really proud to say I'm working with the guild because of the agents in it, and others I look at the agents and think, oh my goodness, like how have they let them in? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's the same sort of thing. But I suppose when you've got the guild, perception probably is not as prevalent as EXP is, because EXP is on your board, it's there, everything. So, but I think, EXP is the platform. My own agency is my agency, and I can police that bit.
Control.
Yeah. That's how I look at it. So the business is still the business. Yeah.
And locally, your agents aren't really building the EXP brand; they're building their brand, right? So
it's all about their personal brand. Yeah. There is an element of if I joined EXP and I had to share my listings on portals and things like that, maybe that would have been the thing that would have stopped me doing it. But my listings all together. I'm in control of that, and I can, and that's where I think agencies going, where I think they do need help. A lot of agents do need help.
So just on because there's a lot of people that watch this show that I know have their own business already. So they are traditional, maybe, agencies which have got teams of 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different people, and they are hit currently with the best government for economic support, should we say. I mean, you couldn't get worse than Rachel from Accounts, who loves to inflict pain on businesses left, right and centre. Trouble is, as useless as she is, the problem is you can't do anything about it, right? So you've got to look for solutions. Is that what kind of drove you towards a solution of going, do you know what, actually, if I wrap it up and put it under something, there's a proportion of turnover that I can bring back? Is it
time is everything? Yeah, I'd have something in my.
By the way, Rachel's all right, really.
I've heard you mention her before.
It just annoys me that you've got people running the country that haven't got a fucking clue. But there you go. What can you say about that?
Is this news? Is he going to run?
Yeah, exactly. Sorry.
It's
embarrassing, by the way. But anyway, no. So basically, the financial pressure that business owners are under has never been greater, and there's a lot that business owners can do to influence their businesses. First of all, develop your people, hold them accountable, have a clear vision, and so on and so forth. But there are a lot of things that are making life a lot more difficult.
I spoke to a business the other day. They're when the national wage limit goes up to their junior members of the team, it's going to hit them $28,000 a month.
Which used to be only 5-6 years ago, it was like 17 or 18 grand a year. It's now 10 grand a year more to hire the same person. And you could argue, and again, I'm not ageist, that there's actually a demographic in terms of age where they need more support than ever and more time, more training to get them through those first 1 to 2 years to enable them to stay. Because estate agency isn't that easy. But running a business, was it a business decision in terms of financial that made you go, I'm just going to take the pressure off in certain ways and go under an umbrella?
The simple thing I looked at was, it interested me. I accepted a free lunch to go, I'm open book. Wasn't really like all in. Yeah, it was a nice restaurant, Adam. Thanks, Adam. But it was very nice.
You never took me.
And I took Chloe, who's my right-hand person, my assistant, and she's been with me a long time, and she listens, and she's although she's in her 20s, she's got old head on her young shoulders, and she got back in the car after I'd met Adam a few times and been introduced to the model, and she got in the car and she said something to me. She's like, I was waiting for her to say it. She's like, what do you think? What you thinking? She's like, well, it's a no-brainer. It's a pay-as-you-go model. You're only paying your fixed cost when the money's coming in. And I said, that's what I'm looking at. It's too good to be true. She's like, no, it makes sense. And then I went a bit further, and a traditional agency's probably paying, like, when I look at it, probably somewhere between 60 to 90,000 for this stuff. Like CRMs, all this stuff.
Yeah, when you add it all up over a year.
And I looked at it, and I sat down with Adam, did the numbers. I was like, I'm going to pay EXP a similar amount to what I was paying. The only difference is I'm only paying it when the money's coming in. And then, through certain, milestones, I'm going to get gifted shares back in EXP. And I thought, well, no one else is giving me shares back. So that was before the recruitment stuff, like you just mentioned, recruitment attraction stuff and bringing agents on and, getting bonuses that way. So I just thought that's a simple model. Like, if I have a bad quarter, or if we go into lockdown again, my cost, all those, mine was about $9,500 a month I saved on cash flow. So it's a huge.
But the risk doesn't disappear, right? So just whereas you must have been in that situation, taking the risk from you, and then it's either going up to EXP or down to your network.
Of course, yeah.
Where
But
does the risk go?
I think if with the bigger platforms like EXP, they're taking that conversation away, so I haven't got to worry to speak to that supplier. They're having that conversation for me. And I suppose you do get questions from agency owners saying, well, what if they whack the prices up? A supplier whacks the price up to EXP. Well, they're looking at as they're growing, and they only looked at what's happening in America, like they're economies of scale. Like they're not looking to get it loads cheaper. They're just looking to stop us having to pay loads more. So so I'm getting the same. I'd imagine they're paying a similar amount to what I used to pay, but I'm not having to pay it.
The bit that I can't quite wrap my head around, and I ask this question with genuine curiosity, is that it seems as though the first step is, and I know your journey's been a bit different because you've been a business owner before, but the first step for most of them initially was someone goes to become a self-employed agent, and then they do that. It's great because I'm doing what I used to do in my old business, or maybe a little bit broader where I was more specialized at the end in my old place, but I'm getting more of a bigger slice of the pie on completion, right? But then they're doing well, and there comes a point though where they're the limitation.
And
right?
I think what you're highlighting is there wasn't the teams model. So none of the brokers were offering likes of Matt and I to bring their businesses in and be a team within a bigger brokerage.
But then, so at that point, that person then says, okay, well, I'm looking at my business and I'm spending half of my time doing important stuff, which only I can do. And then there's half of my time, which I'm spending doing stuff which I shouldn't be spending my time on. And then the normal thing within a business would be, and you just mentioned like your assistant, if they may have been more than two of you at the time, but that's the thing is like you can give some stuff to her and you can do your stuff. So it's like a specialization rather than everyone doing their own thing.
Isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So, but does that happen like for self-employed agents, or because a personal agent thing isn't the premise of it that one person will do all of it?
No, it doesn't have to mean that, does it? And I think what I was trying to make a point was, in America, and I keep mentioning the US, but most personal agents, brokers, they call it, don't they, work under a team. So they'll join a mini brokerage underneath a bigger platform that most people do, because they get a certain level of support. Some won't want to grow their own team. Some will want to go on and grow their own team, have assistants, have showing assistants, have chain progressors. I can't forget what they call them in America now. They have a funny name for them, don't they? But so it's flexible. Like I take the group of agents we've sort of built underneath the EXP banner. We get together on a Thursday morning. So today's Thursday. I was driving here. I logged into the Zoom, and there's guys on there who are doing $250,000 on their own. There's guys who are doing who do $250,000 and need 3 people to do it. Or some people on there are doing $60,000 a year and happy with that.
And if you're doing $250,000 and you've got 3 people in your team, and you kind of,
and they can be employed. You could employ them. You could employ them.
But is that still personal agency? That's the bit that, because sometimes for me it looks as if it's morphed into, it's basically, if you want to do personal agency, we can do that. If you want to do an estate agency business, you can do that. And I think that's fine. Like
your question and what Matt's question was, they go hand in hand. So I launched my own business like Matt did because you were a personal agent. You wanted to do it your way, and no one else in your office was doing it your way, going above it. And I did the same. And then you build this business, and not everyone does it your way, and you're not in control of every evaluation or appraisal or whatever you call. So I ended up creating a business where that wasn't my goal. I wanted everyone to do it their own way and care as much as I did. But when they're earning, they've got no skin in the game. They don't care as much. I didn't when I worked for my previous boss. I think I was better than most, but as soon as you're your own, you care a lot more, don't you? So I guess that's when I was saying when I was searching for something, I knew I hadn't created. I knew it wasn't it. Do you know what I mean? So I think this model and the way it is, you can create that, personal.
But you said earlier, that's it's not all about you today, all right? But kind of good to talk about these things. And Colby, you've come up with some really good questions there. But one of the points you made just a minute ago was, I'm hearing that 60, 70% of people that go self-employed don't succeed. And a large proportion of people that do really don't get anywhere near their past earnings in year one because of the net investment that they have to make in terms of buying their own boards, their own things, running their own mini business, if you like. And then you mentioned quite rightly in the employed model in estate agency, the turnover of people is still very, very high as well. So it feels to me like nobody's fixed the problem.
No, I agree. Yeah.
I mean, I have. I'm going to tell you all about it soon, and it is really good. But in all fairness, it feels like the people that come into either model, something's not happening before they arrive, and then something doesn't happen when they arrive to get them to where they want to go. Now, my biggest challenge with the brokerage model is as long as you're paying your admin fee, you'll pay us when you get some of your commissioning. Great. But really, it's not the old employment adage of there's the desk, there's the phone, all the best, you're on your own. This is what used to happen in many estate agencies in the yesteryear, where you'd hire people, there was very little training, very little support, no mentoring, no coaching. And if you figured it out, you've done well. If you didn't, you're out the door, And it feels like both models haven't solved the problem of bringing people in
and
help.
It's support.
Because year 1, year 2, year 3 for me are like critical for whether you're going self-employed or into the industry. What could be the solution for the industry? And you're working in tech, but it's important for you to look in because you want to see the industry succeed
I think tech goes hand in hand with support.
Okay, so tell us about that, because I don't see a solution out there. And what could be the solution to help agents to not only join either model, but to actually succeed?
I think that might be a vain endeavor,
You think it's impossible?
Well, it's just we could be talking about that. Could say anything showdown, and we could be talking about it for any industry, and we could talk about how can we make more people succeed. Like it's like anything in life. Some people succeed, some people fail, some people luck into it's their.
So you think it's just it is what it is?
I think obviously you can help it, right, and you can set people up for success and not, but like ultimately. Let's just take employed estate agency. So you go into a job as an estate agent. And I've never been an estate agent, but I've been working them now for 12 years. And my previous job was selling sports hospitality. So similar kind of, you go in and it's a hardcore kind of sales environment. You live and die by your achievements and stuff. And some people just aren't set up for it. Some people try and like pitch someone, they get shut down, and then they never want to do it again. And we're wasting our time if we try and solve those problems, right? Likewise, some people don't have either the situation in their financial situation beforehand to go and start up their own thing, or sometimes I feel bad saying resilience, but I think there is a bit of that. Is that it's the buck stops with you and you're the business owner. There's no two ways about it. And not everyone is set up to deal with that. Not everyone loves that. People don't fail at EXP necessarily because they fail. They might just decide, actually, this isn't for me.
I've tried it.
That's fine. I think what Matt's trying to point is like.
I'm glad you know, because I haven't got a clue.
Yeah. I think your point is like, someone with the right mindset and attitude, coached correctly with the right support, could succeed higher.
Here's my point. Colby, you're going to start with us tomorrow, right? And you're going to be self-employed. You're going to be in what we're going to call it a hybrid role really. But what do you want to achieve? Well, I want to achieve 100 grand. Okay. Well, let's map that out, right? So we'll map it out. But more importantly, what's your plan look like for the actions that you need to take consistently? We map that out. Then we come back, because people talk about mindset, and I've been guilty of this, spending too much time talking about mindset. Mindset is still halfway through the journey. Well, you need to go back from mindset. What's their environment like? You know, what do they eat? What do they drink? How do they look after themselves? Because it's very difficult to take skill into action if you haven't got the energy. So there's a whole heap of stuff that if people are aware of it and how they look after themselves and how they learn and what their environment looks like, because Gatesy said it on my last podcast, which is, you know, if you've got 5 dickheads around you, you're the 6th dickhead, basically. And in so many respects, people get plugged in to a bunch of dickheads, often not, who say, we've always done it this way. I've always been like this. I've always been like that. And, you know, I feel with estate agency, it's almost accepted that, you know, 50% of you are going to fail, or 70% of you are going to fail, and it's the same across both models. This is why I want to make that distinction. It feels to me like the work's not done at the almost like the deeper stuff, because if you're in sales, it's a performance business. You have to get a result. The result can often be what people focus on. I've got to get 10 listings. I've got to get 5 listings.
You've got to start with some first step, right?
Forget that bit, right? Let's go back to the start. What did you do yesterday? You know, what did you eat? What did you drink? Now, that may sound really boring, but if you want to earn 100 grand a year and you're used to earning 40 grand a year, you've got to think, what have I got to do in my life, the things that I can control, not Rachel from accounts, to get my work and my world colliding in a way that's going to take me to that place? What got you here is not going to get you there. You've heard that book. I think it's Good to Great or whatever it is. But most people don't think about that. They think the model is going to make me 100 grand. And actually they go, I've never done lead gen before. Yeah. And how do I do this? You know, what do I do? Personal brand. I'm on Facebook, but I'm very much hidden away in the corner. So
by the time someone's at that point of success where you want to get to, that's when you start to get visibility of what they're doing.
Yes.
What they're doing then isn't the important thing.
No.
And the challenge is the things they were doing at the beginning. No, there's no LinkedIn content of that because no one cared, right? And that's the stuff that's the really. But
it's that like you would have got your first customer 12 years ago. Right? Yeah. What did you do to get your first customer?
Yeah. So, well, our first vendor was somebody sat opposite me in a co-working space.
Was it?
Who I was just talking to about it, and she had a property in Surbiton that she was looking to sell. And so I went down to Surbiton on the train and just went door knocking on loads of estate agents to ask them if they'd be interested in working with us.
What was that like? This is a story. I want to hear more about this.
So cool,
Well, because ultimately the thing is that you need to, when you talk to someone and you pitch them an idea, realistically, the most information you're going to get is not what comes out of their mouth. It's how they're responding. When you're telling them the idea, you can see you can see from their facial expressions, like what's landing, what's not landing, etc. Right? That unwritten communication. So it was really important for me to be in front of those people so I could see that rather than just hearing it on a phone call. And it was really interesting. And actually, like, we had an insanely complicated monetization model at the front, which was basically we will auction your lead off to all the 5-star agents in the area. And 5-star was dictated as our algorithm will put every agent that's listed a property in that area in order of how good we think they are. And 5-star is the top quintile, the top 20%. So I went and spoke to 15 agents in Surbiton, and basically it was about fee at that point. The idea was, well, it's not just about fee, it's about really good agents, but once you got the really good agents, then it's about fee. And the idea was that we'd start from 1.5% and you could just bid down from there. And what we saw is that agents would just bid basically really, really low to...
So the agents that were given the opportunity would then ski downhill fast.
Yeah, and one agent would say, whatever that agent says, we'll go lower than that. And that was my first introduction to this fees thing, which has now been going on for 12 years about how agents
win against
they just want Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it was really, really interesting. And so we only were covering London when we first launched. And I was based in central London, kind of like an Aldgate area. And our first 3 leads, we only did London because it was close by. And our first 3 leads were Surbiton, Romford, and Richmond, which were probably the 3 furthest places from where I lived we could possibly get. But no, it was really interesting. And this is the thing. So it's not, people don't see the hustle then, right? People, by the time people are seeing what you're doing, there's already a certain level of
How many years did it take you as a tech company to almost get into profit? We start there.
Oh, blimey. I mean, we made a profit during, was it the back end of, was it 2021 when there was a stamp duty reduction? We made a profit then.
So you would have been, 7 years in or something like that?
Yeah, more. Yeah. And like, and look, for us, we're very much like an estate agent in as far as we pay to acquire business up front. That's what you were talking about earlier about that cash flow thing. But then we only get paid on completion of sale. So last month, just for example, we spent just shy of £700,000 on B2C marketing.
Staggering.
And we won't make that money back for an average of 11 months or something. Some will be sooner, a lot will be longer. So if you think that there's an average of a 7-month cycle, and we don't spend 700 grand every month. It was January, it was a big month. But say we spend 600 grand each month. That's if it's, what did I say, 10 months?
11 months.
11 months. We're talking about £5.5 million of working capital to bridge that. So we had to so I just found that myself. No, so we had to raise VC money to do that, which again, I'd never done.
But to do that though, Colby, and I'm, for the listeners and the watchers out there, you can't just go to VCs and go, can I borrow some money? You know, you have to have clear visions, forecasts, predictions, market trends, all sorts of things that convince that person with the money to invest in your business.
Yeah, and like yesterday on Property Industry Eye, there was announced that that One Dome has just raised $25 million, and can always rely on the Property Industry Eye comments for true insight.
So tell us what One Dome is.
So One Dome, this is probably one of their problems, is that they haven't really communicated what they are very well over the years, and it's changed a lot. But ultimately now they're a mortgage broker.
Oh, really?
And they've been acquiring mortgage brokers at quite a clip, to be honest. And financially, the business has done very well. But most people in reading Property Industry, I don't know that. And the first comment said, where are these VCs? I've got a shit business idea that I want millions of pounds for.
That is brilliant. and normally some kind of weird name as well attached to
but
it.
I think PB's been assassinated probably. He's gone. So so that's just an example of people assume that like getting VC money is really easy and there's just all these idiots willing to give you money. But it was really tough. And I remember I was 26 years old when we launched GetAgent. We had no right to be doing what we were doing. Like when we call agents and say, do you want to sign up? I'm going to get you leads. I have complete understanding why they would say, hang on, who the fuck are you? And why do you think you can get leads we can't? But again, it's a bit like with any business, you have to have a combination of humility and the hustle, but an insane amount of confidence in yourself and what you're doing. And especially when you're raising VC money.
But does raising VC money give you the confidence? Because you'd have to go through a series of efforts and steps to be able to present to smart people your proposition and the return of their investment. So what I mean by that is like confidence doesn't cut. I think a lot of agents suffer with confidence. They would sit there in the lounge and there's no vision. There's no plan. It is, how do I win the listing against you two by being slightly cheaper sliding scale of fees? Because whatever Colby's come up with, I want to take it down by 0.25%. And what price did Adam say? Because he normally tops it. So I'm going to go up against Adam and maybe go 10% above the real market value to win the instruction. But all jokes aside, that's how estate agencies are failing today. It's like the 4, horsemen of the apocalypse, where one of the big things is, negotiating your value. When you go to venture capitalists, you have to be really clear, don't you? and you have to be able to demonstrate what it is that your thing is going to be different and how it's going to return on investment. See, I think estate agency is that. I think if you've got a confident agent who's got the plan in place, they've got the strategy really clear, they're going out there, and it's not about their personality so much, it's about their confidence in the process, the way in which they're going to deliver the variables to get the client to their outcome.
I just spoke to an agent this morning, driving here, who did a valuation outside his normal area. Had no problem asking for 1.5% and money for media, but he said, "Why can't I do that when I'm on my own patch?" He's going down to 0.5, 0.75. It was like, it's just, he wants it too much. His confidence.
Right, you've hit on it. Desperation and confidence.
Yeah.
Big difference.
He doesn't want to lose it to that local agent.
It's not about winning it. It's about not losing it. That's the thing.
Yeah, that's exactly that.
But like coming back to your thing when you're saying about these VCs, I think that very early stage with the VCs where basically you're at no revenue, right? And you go into them, and I was lucky enough to speak at Property Portal Watch conference, because obviously Property Portal is all about buyers. I asked them if I could talk because sellers are undervalued in that space. And I told them the story about E1 and 200 agents and stuff like that. And I ended it with, and being 26, never worked in an estate agency, never run like a large business, never ran a website or anything like that. I thought, well, fuck me, I can do something about that, which is insane, right? And I think, so you have to have a level of overconfidence that, but also you have to have like, there has to be the other part of that to balance it as well, which is that like a bit of a chip on your shoulder to like want to show people you can do something. Yeah. And then when you go and pitch to these investors early days, and people see Dragon's Den, right? And you go in and say, this is our revenue and stuff like that.
Is it like that?
It's not really like that, because most of the time companies don't have any revenue, right? So you go in and you pitch these people, and ultimately they're giving you money at that stage because your business might change. And I set our like ridiculously complicated business model of people bidding some of their fee. Then we just moved to the 0.25%. Our business has changed a lot versus what we planned at the beginning. So they're backing you as the person. And I think I've not been an estate agent, and I've not sat on the sofa, but I think there's a similar thing, is that ultimately you can come up with a strategy and pitch that to the person, the vendor, but ultimately they're going to think, I may or may not believe in this strategy, but do I think this person is smart enough, honest enough, has got my back to roll with whatever the punches that come up are, whatever happens in the market, and gets a good outcome on this? And there's lots of similarities.
Just before we got on camera, you was talking about, I know you said don't talk about it, but we're going to talk about it. We can cut it out if it gets uncomfortable, but in the nicest possible way. I think this is real talk. And what I took away from your conversation, Colby, is that you really like to work on improving your business. That's what I took away, because what you took away from Adam was he had some feedback, he had a bit of an experience with GetAgent
in the early days ago. Yeah.
But ultimately, what you asked a great question as well, which was which was interesting as well. But the point behind it was you must get some agents that take leads and then say, I don't want to pay you. That must be a regular problem.
Yeah, and so,
and is that because they're not clear on how it works, or is it a case of they're just taking the piss?
It's that. No, it's
here he is.
No. So
no, but it
is a regular thing.
Yeah.
But I want to caveat that with, as a percentage, it's very rare. But last month we sent nearly 35,000 valuation introductions to estate agents. So of course it's going to happen. And first of all, like if an estate agent has been in contact with the vendor in the 28 days prior to the introduction, they let us know that, send us a screenshot of the CRM, we just write it off. And just like, even if that vendor has spoken to our client services team and said, do you know what, John did come around to my house, did a valuation, he was very arrogant, we thought he was full of shit, but now we've seen his stats are so good on your website, we're going to use him. Yeah. Fine, it's 28 days, that's our rules. But if it's outside of that 28 days, if the vendor comes through to our website and asks us to introduce them to the estate agent, we do count that as an introduction.
And is it only if the estate agent accepts the introduction?
No, so the estate agents have a contract with us.
Yeah.
So that they're already signed up to receive valuations from us. We can't run a business where we're sending 35,000 valuations where we're
and spending 700 grand.
Exactly.
Investing
right. And so the way that, and just to be clear about the user journey, because most agents wouldn't have seen this. First of all, our advertising is generally people coming, they're searching for estate agents in or sometimes estate agent fees, even though we're not about getting people the cheapest agent. And they're coming to our website. They have to give us their postcode, number of bedrooms, approximate value, name, number, email address, home address. Like people who aren't interested in seeing estate agent comparisons don't fill in all of that information. Yeah. So they want to know. They generally, like, I think it's fair to say they've not already made their decision.
Could I ask you well, it might be challenging or not, but a tech question.
Yeah.
I understand a little bit about, and when I parted companies with GetAgent, I invested heavily on Google, Facebook ads, and last year I created £2 million worth of fees via mainly Google. So I understand a little bit. Could you track me? If I got
£2 million in fees.
Worth of fees, yeah.
Worth of fees.
So soft leads, we give a value of their house, and we track how much we're getting, so moving through the funnel. So if I went on Matt's website today, could you then track me? Are you tracking individual websites, or do you just go people, whoever's visited Rightmove, I'll track them and stuff like that?
We're not tracking anyone,
aren't you?
No.
Yeah.
So
I don't think we can do that.
It's more you're attracting rather than
if someone goes and searches best estate agents in Peterborough, for example,
SEO
we'll advertise that. It'll be Google Ads. We'll be there. We've also done some TV advertising, but all of our advertising is aimed at people who are undecided vendors. Like we're not trying to capture people who already know who they want, because that's generally not. Model. Yeah, we're not going to be able to monetize that. As soon as we start asking for all of that information, they'll fall off. And then the other thing is, we'll then show a shortlist. Once they've given us all of that information, we show them a shortlist of the top 7 performing agents for them, whether the agent works with us.
And the agent can put their fees in there, can't they?
Registered agents.
They can go, well, look, to pay you the 0.25% or whatever it works out, they can go, I'll just add that onto our fees, and then we get the. But
I think that's a bad idea.
I think it's a bad idea as well, because having worked and referred to agents before myself, 0.25%, or there's normally kind of like a norm in terms of a referral fee.
Yeah, the guild's more, right?
I think it is. And with the platform, EXP, the agent chooses what they want to refer at.
I suppose what I'm saying is, like, if you're an agent and you've got various lead gen means, and you're not having to, because what I don't think they get, and maybe that I'm answering this question for you, so just forgive me if I get this wrong, is that if you're investing £5 million a year on attracting people, and there are an average of, I don't know, you might get 12 leads a year, right? For argument's sake, you haven't had to spend any money outright to go and get that lead. So your return of investment could be 1.25% on the back of not investing anything, if that makes sense.
And my issue I had at the time, I was spending money.
Right.
So I think it's perfect for a personal agent not spending any money. I think I would 100% do it. But because I was spending money as well, I was like, well, I'm taking a risk here, because I'm hitting the same person with stuff, and I'll take the risk. So that's my view. So I think someone with not a budget, it's perfect, because you're getting free leads, aren't you?
Well, I think those with a budget, I actually think. So I agree with what you're saying. I also think that people with a budget, generally speaking, not always obviously, have like it even more, because a lot of agents don't have an understanding of what their cost per market appraisal is, right? So an agent who's adding on the fee will often be like, well, I'm paying 0.25% away, and if I normally make 1%, I need to make 1.25%. That's
the point I was getting to.
But they're marketing, they're doing marketing things.
So for an agent to know what that is, if they're listening, because I would say a vast majority do not measure that. That means they don't understand that you're not giving 0.25% away, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but it's also very difficult. Like I understand, because like we're talking, and it's allocated like. With marketing, one of the things is about attribution and understanding like where something came from. And when you're an agent that you're selling properties in the area, so you do have a brand reputation in the area. Yeah. You may have kind of flyered that street 6 months ago. Then there's GetAgent. Like, where does it come from? For us, did the lead come from Google AdWords? Did it come from like TV? We have the same thing. So it is difficult to assign. Anytime brand is involved, it's difficult to do an actual cost per market appraisal, because what goes in the I don't know, the numerator, the top of the fraction. Did you include the difference in cost between an office that's in a business park and an office that's on the high street? Because that's part of your marketing. So it is really difficult. So I have a lot of sympathy for agents on that. But
it's difficult, isn't it? Because like you ask a vendor, like, why am I here?
Yeah.
And they'll say sometimes Rightmove. Sometimes they'll say, and then you look and they've read every one of your newsletters you've ever sent. Like, you look at the system. So that's probably the reason.
And the truth is, there'll be a number of things.
Yeah, it's that 7-11-4
it's that
principle of
But I think the other part of the equation that people don't really think about with the leads from GetAgent is that we introduce Mr. Smith to you. You list Mr. Smith's property. If you sell it, you pay us 0.25%. But if a vendor, if a buyer comes to you for Mr. Smith's property and you convert them into a new vendor,
you don't pay
or mortgage, or
exactly.
Yeah.
So,
and I think that's a really interesting distinction, because we all know as agents, perhaps not yourself, Colby, but you've just hit the nail on the head. A really great listing creates another, at least a third of the time.
well, that's a great agent superpower, right? That's and especially like the stuff that the personal brand stuff is all about that. It was all about leveraging one and getting another.
And they took one of the oldest sayings. Sorry to use my history in the industry, but boards breed boards. That's a synonymous saying, and in some ways it really does. Listings breed listings. But just coming back, the point I was trying to get to, and I classically didn't, was you had some feedback. What you said, over the years, you've improved certain areas of the communication with your people within the business, because you were very much business to consumer. Is that what we were talking about? What was what were the changes that were made? Because my experience of having one or two queries with GetAgent, and for full disclosure, in the last year or 18 months, is that the team have been super responsive. They've provided the information that I've needed, and that it's been sorted.
Yeah, and without going into too much detail, Adam's experience a few years ago was different, right? And that's how it came up, the conversation. So GetAgent's a marketplace. We've got vendors on one side, we've got agents on the other side. And actually, for the first maybe 6-7 years of GetAgent's life, we had a saying, which was, we're vendor first, right? We're vendor first. And the reason for that is not because we didn't like agents, because if we get loads of vendors, agents get loads of leads, which is what they want. And then we make money, everyone wins, right? If we put agents first, then vendors might not like the website, and then agents don't win, and we do it, and it just doesn't work. So, but we just lent into that too much, to be honest. And when agents say to us, we want more leads, we put every ounce of money, every ounce of resource into that. We never really engaged with the estate agency side of our marketplace. Like, I wasn't doing stuff like this 3 years ago, right? And so that was a big mistake, because although agents, that's the thing they wanted most, that's not the only thing they wanted, right? And so they wanted it to feel like a bit of a partnership, and that we had their back. So we changed a lot internally to try and think more in that way. And also in the early years, we might have one completion with an agent every 2 years. So realistically, it's quite difficult to take, commercially, it's difficult to take a view on the relationship. And we've also got to succeed as a business. So our hand was a force a little bit, but we also could have done more. And that's what we've changed a lot. We've got an agent success team. We're out communicating with agents a lot more. You'll see us at more events, but also we found a better balance.
I was going to say, have you seen an upturn of business because of that?
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, I think that how you answered the question earlier was fantastic, and how you're looking to improve. It's that, like, Matt and I are interested in growing our businesses and our careers, and I thought it was a great answer. And a quick question about, if for a small team like mine, say there's 10 agents, if 50% of them wanted to be on GetAgent and 50% didn't, and they're all independent contractors and they're owning their own estate agents, could they choose to go on GetAgent?
Interestingly, despite you owning your own business, we wouldn't be able to work with you because Adam Day said no.
Oh, right, okay.
Which is maybe a little bit like, I don't understand, maybe like, I don't know, like, that seems a bit weird to me. I didn't
know that, actually. That's why I asked the question.
But then
it's interesting, because I'm an outsider looking in. So we've got EXP and GetAgent. And
they are the brokerage, I suppose, because they take the money.
The agent, the vendor contracts with them, right?
Yeah.
So,
but I suppose, like, I'm thinking, you know, I know the EXP agents refer to each other and they do or they don't share referral fees. So it's just
our model would be awesome for and indeed Keller Williams and TA UK have fallen over themselves to try and get this to work as well as it can with their team, because like cash flow is the problem.
It's a value
right?
add as well, isn't it?
But the other challenge we have is that GetAgent shows the best performing branches, right? And in our world, a branch is as per the portals. So you're a branch because you've got your own portal ID, but a lot of EXP is all under the same one. And so we can either turn that all on or none of it on. And that's difficult. So we work very well with like Nested in London, where they've made a decision that they're all on. So obviously much smaller self-employed model, but
and I suppose the EXP is a platform. They're not supplying leads, so
yeah, exactly.
They enter
into a different approach.
They enter a different space, and then they've got to get those leads out, haven't they? And then that could create friction.
Yeah, whereas TA UK, obviously, with Kenny Bruce there, like one of the big successes of Purple Bricks was their marketing and stuff. So obviously they'll take a little bit of a different approach to that. Each one has their own things they offer. But so yeah, we wouldn't be able to work with it, to be honest. Yeah,
it's interesting hearing that. The bit I was kind of, because it sounds to me, like I said a little while back, you kind of had to look at the balance between who you work with. And I'm not sure we really finished the point.
Yeah, we it's about us. We always have to think commercially, right? And because it's not about like making. Yeah, and it's nice. That's a nice side effect, right? Like of doing what we do. But ultimately, we've got families and we've got to pay the bills, right? So we try and take a view as much as possible, but we're limited in the fact that like when we're sending 35,000 intros a month, there has to be some sort of process that may end up sometimes saying, computer says no. And we can try and deliver that in the nicest way possible, but ultimately it's difficult to, an agent who might have 10 instructions or 5 instructions a month might be able to look at each one of those engagements on its own merits and look at everything commercially. And so I'll give you an example. An estate agent might come to us and say, so we charge everyone 0.25%, regardless of if they're Foxtons and they're charging 2.5%, or if they're someone who, for some reason, is charging 0.5%. It's the same, right? For Foxtons, it's 10% of their fee. For this other agent, it's half of their fee. But it's clear from the outset that's the situation. Sometimes an agent will come to us and say, I quoted 1.5%. To get the business, I had to charge 0.75%. Can you reduce your fee? We can't run a business with
relying on somebody's ability to negotiate their fee.
Well, you said that, not me. But
it is though, isn't it?
But forecasting for us, because we're massively exposed. So you think any agent at any one time is exposed. So if there's like a market correction or there's a mini budget or something, there's an exposure to your pipeline. We're hyper exposed, right? Like because we're spending, an agent spending 10 grand a month, we're spending 600 grand a month. So we have to say we can't be forecasting our pipeline
and then
with not knowing what the fees are until.
I think that's a really good mindset for a business to have, and I think this is where perhaps I know EXP agents and I know a lot of independent self-employed agents who work under the same brand charge very different fees, and I wonder how challenging that could be because. They actually can cover the same areas. They're not necessarily territorial.
I see the self-employed, like inverted commas, market eventually dying.
In terms of,
I think it's going to be personal.
That's a good clip, by the way. We'll copy Adam Day into that one. No, I'm only joking.
I think it's going to be agents working together, personal agents underneath a team. So you'd have Gigs & Co. You have 100 brokers across 2 counties or the whole county working as underneath.
Have you been looking at my vision?
How is that different to estate agency?
And I'm doing that in a different way underneath the XP brand. So I've got my moving brand, and I've also set up a club called Real Agency. So there's Stephen, Roger, me, Alex. You got John Savage. There's a few of us supporting each other, and we're creating the support. Right. Help agents understand getting leads. And we've got agents of all different ages, abilities. Some don't realise how great they are. That's a common trait. You know, one of the top performing agents I work with, Alex, in Wales, he hit a barrier. He hit his goals. You know, and he's doing £250,000 a year. Never had so much more money. Just taking his wife to Mauritius for 2 weeks, and he was sad. Do you know what I mean? He was on the phone to me like we speak nearly every night, and I said, look, you haven't got any goals. And he's also lonely. You know, he's on his own. Well, and he's he's not enjoying it with anyone. So now we're doing it together.
I think that is actually one of the big reasons I think people do fail.
Yeah.
Because they're fucking lazier when they're on their own. Because they lose motivation.
I'm a team player.
The energy's not there. You're in isolation.
Like we play golf.
It's like being in COVID. Full stop.
We play golf, right?
Yeah.
For example, like we played golf once. The first time we played golf, we played 9 holes together.
Yeah.
We were playing 18. We were both bored. We weren't playing for anything. We went for lunch, didn't we?
Yeah.
The second time, we played in a team environment.
Yeah.
And look how much more we enjoyed.
Oh my god, yeah.
It was your birthday as well.
Is this when he snatched it on the last hole? Not that you guys are still bitter about it before we started filming.
Because I hadn't seen him since the 18th of November, but I said, did you let me win? Because, I
chipped it on and off.
I took the glory, do you know what I mean? But I had a feeling something was going on. But just coming back to that, the bit that I was kind of saying, though, was, you know, and I think you answered it by saying, you know, agents will work together. You know, and what got me to that question was the business model. You can't forecast your business on discounts. You have to stick to your gun, and you have to know that the value you provide is the value you provide. That's what it's worth. End of story. And I think that's one of the agency challenges, or where agents, because they're saying to the vendor, so you want to use me, but you want me to do it at the same fee as Colby. And they'll go, well, yeah, you know, we like you, we want you to do it. The agent will often go,
they won't go, what do you want me to take away?
Or,
yeah.
Why do you see us different to them? But the point I'm making is I think a lot of people that are going into self-employed, to improve their conversion rate of staying and succeeding, my viewpoint is the thing that they're being sold is being on your own, freedom, flexibility. For me, it's...
If that's why you go there, you're going to flop.
That's the opposite. I think the community I'm growing, like real agency, is just like my favourite part of what I've done in my whole career, because everyone's got different ideas. John Savage was talking about how he does his, like, I think he's got 45 questions he asks. If someone goes on his website to book a
I've referred John.
I did hear that. But 45 questions before they get to have a conversation with him.
Well, it amazed me. I mean, in a great way, that John's process is so rigid and he's not flexible, which is, I love that. But the point I was kind of getting to with you was that when you're in such a big, like, it's a big club, isn't it? EXP. That's how it looks from the outside.
With smaller clubs in it.
Yeah, with smaller clubs in it.
Yeah,
and I think so those smaller clubs are helping iron out some of those little challenges that the isolated agents are having.
In the UK marketplace, I've been to Canada, America, and seen and sat in masterminds with, big, companies who had like 4 agents and now got 400 agents, covering the whole county, state. And it's all clubs within clubs. EXP is the platform which brings those people together. Yeah. But I think there's this perception at the moment of like everyone, they're all on their own, competing against each other. That won't be like that forever. That's what I was trying to say. There might be some who want to be in their own lane.
Yeah. Within your group that you said, I know it's good that you get the support. Are you competitive with each other?
Jamie and I were competitors. Yeah.
Sorry, I mean more like not do you compete in the same areas, but do you want your bit to? Do you want to beat them?
Yeah, we have a little bit of I suppose like when I was part of the guild, there was a brand ambassador, like social media, and everyone gets a bit competitive. And we have spoke about as we get a bit larger, like first one to hit certain milestones, or like we did a challenge for like doing a video a day, and everyone was like, you haven't done one yet, Adam. So there's a little bit of competitive, and we share like the responsibility, and in the meetings, we try to get face to face. But we've got people in York, we've got people in Devon, we've got people everywhere. So like in Wales, so it's hard to get. But it's interesting. We agents are typically unorganised, and even the good ones break the rules and don't stick to their diary plan. So we were doing bi-weekly calls, thinking we don't want to overwhelm people, but The minute we change it to Thursday morning 9:15 till 10 every week, and we normally run on to 10:30 to be honest, everyone knows it's there, and not everyone comes every week, but
got a listing.
Some because I try not to have appointments in the morning, like the listings and my team do, but every now and again you've got to do something. But people share stuff like I've got a guy Osco's the central London agent, moved to Ringwood, and he's having to learn a different type of marketplace. His sellers are different, his buyers are different. He's never chain built before, so he's like soaking up everything, takes action, and something you'd love to have in your team. Do you know what I mean? Like he is just like an action taker.
So he's going to be
just by his attitude, yeah. And I met that the first time I met him for lunch in London. I was like, whatever you do. And he was in tech actually. He was working for a tech company at the beginning. He was an agent before that.
Did he? Sorry, I'm not cutting you short, but I was kind of like, I think I got to the
community. Community is what people want.
Okay.
Yeah. But so one of the things on one of the reasons I asked if you guys are competitive, just an observation of maybe salespeople, and I think most estate agents are salespeople at heart, not all of them.
And I think the thing is fee actually, the fee thing. So like Alex charges 2% inclusive of VAT. John Savage charges 2% plus VAT. There's agents on the call today. I'm not going to name any names, but probably have done under 1% in the last 12 weeks.
Who keep quiet on the call on that part of the.
But there's an agent in my team, and John Savage did his call last Thursday, and sometimes people need it here for someone else. Like if I work for you, Matt, I'm hearing you every day, blah blah blah. I come in and say, "Why are you charging 1% to someone?" They're going to listen. They listen to differently. You don't want to listen to your mum and dad, do you? So my agent Dan phoned me up and goes, "Oh John, I've just charged 1.5 to listings this afternoon." I'm like, I tell you to every day. Why don't you listen to me? So I think sometimes it's good to hear it from different voices.
But when I was selling sports hospitality, I was quite good at it. And my thing used to be that I'd get to the top of like the money list, like the top of the chart, and then I'd take my foot off the gas, right? And then someone would get a deal and they'd get above me, and then I'd go through my box of like this when you had the index cards. I didn't even have a computer. Well, I was like 19 at that point, to be fair. And then you get another deal. And my manager at the time used to say to me, in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king, right? And that's always resonated with me. And actually, like, I see that a lot with estate agents. And so, this is related to what we were just saying, but there was a regional sales director of a large London-based estate agency that I spoke to many years ago. I pitched him, and he said, "Well, we don't need you guys because there's only it's normally we're just one of a few agents in the area." And I said to him, I was like, "Okay, well, let's pick one of your branches and we'll just look at the numbers." And he said Strawberry Hill near Twickenham. We looked at the agent, and I looked at there were 4 agents who were at the top. And then I looked at the long tail of all the other agents, and I said, he said, "Here are the agents that are our competitors, X, Y, and Z." And I looked at it and I said, you could 8x your market share without taking a single listing off of any of the people that you just told me are the only agents you're competing with in the area. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's not, you don't want to be, it's not your biggest, it's not trying to take a lead off of someone else who's really fucking good. That's much more difficult than trying to take a lead off of someone who has never listed in your area. And just this comes back round to like a lot of people in this industry, because they have that sales background, they're motivated by wanting to win against their competitor. So success is 1% more market share than the guy who's on 6%, not 20% market share. And one of the things I wonder when you step out from being good in an established brand and a branch in an area to self-employed is that maybe the goal isn't you're not going to beat that branch that's got 12 people in there. So you all of a sudden, like the game that the competition you've normally been a part of, you're no longer a part of that now, and you are competing with yourself. And even just me, I think that's really tough, right? Like that's somewhere where I'd really struggle. If I go to the gym with a few people, I'll work really, really hard. Or if I go on a squash court, I'll run my bollocks off. If I try and go for a run, it just won't happen. So
I've got a couple of agents who use the fee. They know what the other agents are charging 1%, and they think, one agent in particular, he focuses on charging, it's Alex actually, 2% inclusive VAT. think I worked at 1.6 something, wasn't it? 6.6. But before he's capped, he's going to have 30% come off that. But he said, even then, I'm still earning more than the other agent who's got an office and got all this other stuff. So he's like, he uses that, his average fee. And I've found, I've stopped looking at market share, probably 5-6 years ago. And, I've looked at our average fee. And when we're really focused on our average fee, we seem to hold it up there. But then you get it to where you want to. Then sometimes you don't look at it as much, and it comes down again. Then
it's amazing what happens when your focus is clear, isn't it? Yeah. And I think when we use, the first 10 years of us having a business, market share was I'd look at it on a Sunday,
But why?
Because I've only had in my mind that was the thing that would drive us listing more houses, selling more houses, and so on and so forth.
But was that because you came from Countrywide?
That's exactly
and that was the mentality there.
Yeah,
right?
And we had done all the board shares, analysis, all that kind of stuff. But we've changed in the last 2 or 3 years. Our market share has come down, but the profit per agent has gone up. And because our agents now aren't so reliant on me or Ollie or Dame, we're building a much stronger network of agents by actually not having the best person listing all the houses. Then they pass it on to somebody else. Then there's a load of gaps in the service. And then those people do their bit. Some do it really well, some don't. Then they pass it over to the sales progression team. And then there's some more gaps. And all of a sudden, yes, you may be doing 25, 30% market share, but out of the clients that you transact with, they're not relationships. And that's the bit that we've had to kind of go full circle on in order, because it's not actually really why I done the job. My deep-rooted values aren't about having the best market share. Am I competitive? Yes. But and I know, to get the best out of yourself, you normally need some people around you. And I think that's the point that you were making, is actually that energy and that kind of like, you're listening in a room. I was talking to someone here earlier and just said, I've got another one-to-one mentor. She said, you're mad, client, as in your time in one-to-one relationships is taking your time by impacting more people. And actually it's true, because if you work in a group to a degree and you've got a group of people, and I've got this, they end up teaching each other and holding each other accountable. And they want to come to the call going, I don't want to be the one that didn't do this. I want to be the one that done it really well. So I think there's some really great learnings from all of that. What I hear, if you're in business, you're going to have business challenges. You're going to have, like you've just said, 7 years, might get some profit. There's not many people that can get to that point if they don't know how to think around it. But a lot of the challenges in estate agency are perhaps not as rigid as that, because I don't think a lot of estate agents know how to run a business. And I don't mean that disrespectfully, by the way, but Mark Burgess will talk about this when I catch up with him next week. I've no doubt. Yeah, well, you're the technician versus the owner, but I'm always interested in how people have faced their biggest challenge, and what was it, and how did you move through it? Because I think resilience was a word Colby used earlier on, and I think people see challenges as a bad thing. They don't necessarily see it as a growth opportunity. And I think shifting perspectives really helps people to learn that if you're going to do really well, you're going to just get more challenges. And if you get more challenges, you're going to be more resilient. And if you're more resilient, you can build bigger challenges, build more resilience, build a better business. But anyway, sorry. Point what I was making is, biggest challenge, how did you overcome?
In business?
In business.
My biggest challenge at business was in 2022 when my right-hand man, where I'd been building a business around me, I'd moved it to build it around my main valuer, and he nearly died on holiday in a swimming pool. So I got a call from his mum saying, I think he's going to die. We were a really close team, and it rocked us. And that was hard getting over, because for 2 years we've done valuations together. People instructed me and Mike. Do you know what I mean? And I realised you can't have a business around one person, and not even that, you can't have a business around me and Mike, because I was in bits. He didn't know he was going to survive. He did survive, and he's got a new life, and he's unfortunately got he's got brain damage. He was lucky to survive. But talking about how you bounce back from that, his brother, who Mike really pushed me to employ. And I was like, no, I don't want two brothers working together. What if you fall out? What if your wives don't get on? Like, what if, like, it wasn't about them running off. I trusted them both. And Mike was like, right, man, it was his business. And Dan had started 4 weeks before the accident with me as like a trainee. Yeah. And he's gone on. So like, and we talk about it a lot with Mike as well. And Mike's just going to start his own podcast as well, talk about his new life and what happened. And so that was, but the learnings I had from that is like, you learn, the industry, and Mark Burgess actually gave a big donation actually to a GoFundMe for Mike, because at the time we weren't sure if he's, had any support. But that was hard to get through, and I realised who were the good people around me in the business and out the business, and who your friends are, and everything like that. It was a challenge in our local market as well, because everyone did instruct me and him, and I've seen this before, unfortunately, when a local company, a director died, and you saw their market share plummet because people felt awkward coming to you, like, so which I something I didn't.
You almost think they might be more supportive, but actually it went the opposite way.
Because they were like, oh my god, I've seen it in the newspaper, like, he's nearly died, it's front page news. We had a little bit of valuation started going on. I was like, well, what's going on? Like, so that was a hard thing to get over, but we're still mates. We played badminton the other night, and he's got a different life. We went for a curry and stuff. So
when you're going through those moments, though, it can feel really distressing.
Yeah, and it, I was broken. And
how did you get through it though? Like, I know it's always easier after the event, isn't it, to kind of look back and go, that was a moment and everything else. But there's going to be people, I think, at the minute, and I think a lot of people are going through some fucking challenges, big challenges.
Do you know what? Michael was a young lad, right? Yeah, when he first come, it's the first time I understood manifesting. He was a very spiritual young guy, and Chris Watkin once stated that he was in the top 5 under 25-year-olds. And he taught me a lot. So it's even though I was 20 years old, he did teach me a lot even from a young age. And after the accident, I was like, what would Mike say to me now at this moment? And what would Mike do? And when he was recovering, and I was like, he'd open his mind up to, maybe this is meant to happen. Maybe like this is my part of my journey. And so when I had the lunch for Adam Day, then my mind was opened. Maybe this is what. And he joked the other day. He said, "You'd never probably taken that meeting if I hadn't had my accident." I said, "Maybe I wouldn't have done. No one ever know, would we?" But
made you think different.
I think I was like, open my mind up, and to be honest, the mindset wise and personal wise, because I wasn't really in a good place, the lettings company always dragged me down mentally. So I thought, I'm going to move that out of my life. So I outsourced my management, didn't have to get involved in that. So because that was the only time, the lettings side of the business used to give me the biggest stress. Because I, like you and like yourself, you care about your team, don't you? So when I saw the property manager under pressure, I'd step in and try to sort it out and speak to the landlord. But I thought, Joe, what? I don't want to do that anymore.
Has that been like a bit of a learn for you, Adam? Because you are a very good estate agent.
I was building a business which wasn't right for me.
Yeah.
That's the biggest learning. I was doing something which I loved doing, but I was building it. Well, I thought I should.
Because I've worked with people that have come to me over the years, and they're extremely good at what they do, and then they just try and do more of it, even though they've got people around them. And actually, what they end up doing is beginning to resent the business because they've become the business, and actually, that isn't then a business. If that makes sense. Yeah,
and I was in that classic. I've got it so far in business, but I couldn't employ the Matt gigs to come and work for me. He was valuing, it was a big risk to go and give him 60 grand salary, and he wants to earn 120 grand. Yeah, so I had quite a small bit. I only ever had one valuer working alongside me, and we had, you used to be obsessed with market share. We had good market share, and you had a good business and charged more than anyone else. But
I think it's so funny, isn't it, running a business? Like, you can make great profits, but you pay great tax. So there's this balance of reinvesting back in the business, making the right decisions.
We've never had to pay corporation tax because we may have made profit 7 years in, but we're still well underwater. Yeah. People think that I think people think GetAgent is me with a laptop. Right.
How many people how many people are in GetAgent?
Like 90, 95 people.
I mean, that's good for you to be on here and share what you've shared.
Yeah,
because I think it's really showed. I've learned a shitload about your business just talking to you about it today. But they probably do. They probably think all you do is send leads, take your 0.25% on completion, See you later.
and chill on the beach in the Maldives or
Yeah.
something. Yeah,
Yeah.
unfortunately, it doesn't work.
Tell us
like
about
that.
your biggest challenge.
So I think COVID was probably my biggest challenge, and different parts of it for different reasons, or certainly that kind of couple of years, because I think one of the reasons why I started my own business, and I think this applies to a lot of people who start a business, but I don't want to talk on everyone's behalf, is that you want to be in control of your own destiny a little bit, right? And there's maybe like some things from growing up where you want to make sure that you're in control of it. But whilst that is true to a point when you run your own business, it can all of a sudden get exposed as a bit of a myth, right? Because I can't control that there's a breakout of like a coronavirus, right? So, and everyone listening to this who's in the estate agency industry would have been through the same up and down that followed that. Like we moved into a new office, which was 40 grand a month, whereas before we were on a 2-year lease, whereas before that we were on a flexible thing. We moved into our new office 2 days before the first lockdown. So we could have saved a fortune. At that point, I think we had about 40 members of staff. And you kind of, the market got closed down legally. You couldn't move. Our revenue stops if people can't complete sales, just like estate agents' revenues do. And that's probably times when having a lettings book is a good thing. So you're then thinking, all right, well, how long is this going to last? Can we get through it? Like, how do we look after the staff? So, and again, the same as everyone else struggled with, but then all of a sudden they not only reopen the market, but they do the stamp duty reduction, and we go from completely in the doldrums, everyone on furlough, to fuck me, we need to hire people because it's just gone crazy. So then it's like, it's still that's good, but to run a business, you want a certain level of kind of consistency to plan around, right? So still, it makes you feel like you're out of control a bit. So anyway, we followed that kind of champagne effect where the pressure built up and it's released. And then just after COVID, you have the mini budget. And that just killed so much of the pipeline. And we were massively exposed to that because of all the pipeline that we'd built from that previous period. And it was really tough. So
and that was killed because the mini budget had the high interest rates. People were not inclined to move because there was so much uncertainty.
Yeah,
and that meant the market shrunk.
Yeah, but basically, normally what happens is that despite what happens in the economy, a certain of people, divorce, death, debt, will obviously move, and then you get some discretionary buyers. But even like go back to the 09-10, where it was the smallest number of transactions that's ever happened in a 12-month period was like 750,000 or something. So you can kind of state that no one was choosing to move house then. So that's your kind of
benchmark,
your baseline. Anything
lower,
above that is discretionary, and before that, discretionary used to double the transaction rate. Now it's not doing that, right? But so normally you've got that, the market will fluctuate. The challenge with what happened with the mini budget is that overnight people's situations massively changed. So it was the fact that it was not like economically things changed over time. It was like that. It almost felt like everything changed. Mortgage rates went up really, really quickly. And all of a sudden people who had already had an offer accepted were having to say, oh, I can't. Right. So, and then normally what happens is if people come off the market because they can't sell their property, they might go back onto the market in the not too distant future. But at that point, they still couldn't. They couldn't afford it 6 months later. So that pipeline just completely fell out. And that, so what you do, obviously, you control the controllables, but you kind of get around. You have a plan. You speak to your investors. We spoke to our investors, so we knew that if it didn't kind of improve, we had a backup plan to so that we could protect everyone's jobs and stuff like that. And actually, it's not. We were fine. We were fine, right? But so it's not the challenge that I'm discussing. Isn't the fact that like we nearly went under, because we didn't. We were fine. But it's the reality check of, no, you're not in control of this. You're not. This was and it's a humbling thing, right? Because it's like
it creates a shitload of vulnerability, doesn't it? Like you because you can get to, one of the worst things that ever happened to me was the success was so fast, and that's
Is that your biggest challenge?
Well, do you know what? I would say
it's like an interview. What was your biggest challenge? Oh, my success was just so fast. The first business took off like a rocket. Right.
It done really well. That's the worst thing in some ways that happened, because I thought every business would be like that.
Yeah.
And it wasn't.
And you probably over attributed that to you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then what you do as well in the same breath is that businesses, like you probably understand as well, both of you, is that you have people that join you at the beginning, and they might not be the same people to take you from the middle part to the next stage. And I found that really hard personally, because I felt loyal, but at the same time, loyalty both ways wasn't actually moving us forward. And I found that really hard. But this is where I think, if you've got a clear vision, mission, values, and various things that are really important to the business, so it's the business that manages the people around you, not you as a person. You may have to be the one that translates the business needs, but it's not me, Colby. No, you're a great old boy, but it's just not working out. It's, look, the values of the business are this. Colby, you're not showing up in this space. We've spoke about why this is important. I need to see a change in the next 3 months. Otherwise, we'll just have to say thanks, but it's not going to work.
And your good friend Mark Burgess, I spent a lot of time.
He talks about that.
He worked with me a lot. And was my mentor for a couple of years. On my values of the business. It's, it's got to be you, but then you let it down to the business to manage it.
You've got to
take the emotion out.
It's once you've got them. I mean, we're just about to reboot or relaunch a very new way of us moving forward, and the values are going to be pivotal. I think we've had them over the years, and I would argue at times whether they've just been there for the sake of being there. But going back to those challenges, when you've had such a successful period, then you're hit with the realities of perhaps not having the difficult conversations along the way, and because you want to be nice. And Gatesy and I done a podcast recently, and we talked about the difference between being kind and being nice. Being kind is telling people what they need to hear. Being nice is telling people what they want to hear. And I found that as I've got older, I've realised that is kindness personified, because most people, and you must have seen this in friendship circles, certainly as growing a business, you see people that are nice to your face, they're not really kind to you, because they could ground you if they wanted to, but they could support you if they wanted to. But most of the time, I think people are scared of being kind.
I have a very small group of a group of really close friends, because to me, being a good friend is one of the most important things in a person. So I know all of my friends would tell me the truth, and I would always do the same to them. And then that does I think in the workplace, one thing that sometimes people struggle with is wanting to be liked. Even as a manager, you want to be liked. And it is, of course, it's natural. But yeah, you're right. It just doesn't. You don't do right by people.
So I do a lot of work with Steve Backley on my performance mindset, and I phoned him the other day, and someone wronged me. And I knew they'd wronged me, and I don't often get angry or upset, but because I was nice to them. I'm like, it's an attack on my personality. So I phoned him up. I said, "What should I do?" And I said, this is what I'm planning to say to them. This is what I'm going to say. I'm not going to be I said, it's what's bothering you. I said, I don't want to be a dickhead. I don't want him to think I'm a dickhead. And he was like, you're going to be a dickhead if you don't say something. Then you become the dickhead. Yeah. The guy's being a dickhead. You need to put him in his place and tell him, it's not how it's done.
I think
and it's interesting to have a conversation yourself. But I knew I should be saying it, but I just needed someone to tell me
But I think for anyone watching this at the minute, we've started a new year. We're in February already. The year will roll around, and it's, do you want change? And then the second question is do you want to change? Because if you don't, you're just going to expect the same again. You're just going to repeat the same mistake. Yeah,
and it'll get worse because there'll be people who are improving.
Yeah,
the amount of things you've said today, where you've been talking to this person, that constant push for change and improvement. There'll be people then who stand still and say, "Oh, that worked last year. This time next year, you'd have progressed versus them," and then that compounds over time.
Yeah, it massively does. God, we've really rabbited on. Oh yeah, I think we've done about an hour and a half.
Have we?
That's pretty good. I mean, How long have we been
And
doing?
we're still talking.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. That's pretty good. Anyone will think I've got a clock in front of me, but you've been brilliant. And you know, I do. You know, most people always ask before the podcast, what are we going to talk about? And I'm deliberately vague.
I did think that.
Yeah.
I thought you were deliberately unorganised.
Well, that's me copping out for being unorganised. But I think when he started the shows, what it was all about having clear debate questions and everything else. But as I've evolved it, what I've realised is that if you're really going to get deep into conversation, it has to flow. And you've let it flow today. So thank you. And I hope you don't mind me diving in on EXP a little bit, because I'm actually a super fan of it, but I'm still curious. Like you used the word curious. I think curiosity is a really positive thing. And Colby, first time we met was a few months back, and getting you back on today, I feel like I've really learned a hell of a lot more about you as a business owner and a CEO, but I'm really more impressed with what GetAgent do as well. So thanks for joining us today. I hope you've enjoyed the show. If you want to be a guest, send me a message. I'll be more than interested to hear what you're passionate about before we bring you on. I might give you some clues as to who you're on against. Like, follow, subscribe. I ask you that because the way the show's been received so far has been brilliant, and I really do thank you for being a part of this journey, and I look forward to many more conversations like this. Thank you.
Thank you.